Good day, and welcome to the Spirits of Society of Virginia. Each meeting we start off from a reading, and today we have the opportunity to read a message entitled Enemies That We Shall Not Cherish, given to us by the Spirit Author Emmanuel through the mediumship of Chico Xavier. The name of the book, the source, is Throughout Time, by several Spirit authors, and of course, through Chico. Defend the interworld against those hidden adversaries that we shall not cherish. You are certainly hurt by the offense of the aggressor, who does not notice your lofty intentions. However, intolerance, taking refuge as a venomous scorpion in your thinking, is the terrible enemy that leads you to the abysmal darkness of revenge. Undoubtedly, the thoughtless criticism of the brother who belittles your healthy purposes lacerates your sensitivity and spanks your joy. However, vanity, entwined in your heart as a venomous viper, is the pitiful enemy that inclines you towards uselessness and discouragement. Verily, the slander of the troubled friend sets fire to the sanctuary of your ideals, taking away your confidence. However, the cruelty that takes refuge in your being as a tiger of intemperance and discord is the dangerous enemy that suggests to you adherence to crime. Indeed, the contempt that was thrown at you by your unhappy companion is a mortal blow, opening wounds of affliction in the subtle tissues of the soul. However, selfishness hiding in your chest as an intangible jackal of ignorance and ferocity is the fearsome enemy that throws you to frustration. It is not the scourges of the outside world that depress us, but rather the hidden opponents, known by the most diverse names, namely pride and wickedness, sadness and laziness, despair and ingratitude, which persevere with us. Let us love the external enemies who challenge us to do good, to exercise renunciation, to the work of patience, and to the realization of charity. But let us be careful against the assassins hidden within ourselves, who, expressing unworthy sentiments of our knowledge and our evolution, enslave us to anguish and handcuff us to pain, cloistering our lives in misery and disturbance. I don't know what to say about this message, other than the fact that it's amazing.
Thank you. Let us pray, dear friends. This is a moment for us to feel God. We want to thank you, dear Lord of life, for the opportunity of being here with you and everywhere in our lives. We know that there is no place where you are not. You are in every one of us, in every being of nature. You sustain life. So we feel safe in your presence. The world is yours. It's our home. You designed it for us, and we rejoice. In deep reflection, we visualize your healing grace enveloping us in renewal, new beginning, in health, in harmony, and we feel the presence of the angelic beings you send our way, caressing our hearts and inviting us to feelings of gratitude and joy. May our therapeutic session today empower us to liberation from obstacles, impediments, and challenges that mostly reside inside of us. May we seek the good with you, feeling your presence in everything and everyone, and thus raising ourselves above our current limitations. Feeling the grace of your presence, we ask for your permission to begin this therapeutic session in your name and love, and so be it. Thank you, Tony. So friends, as we begin today, the message is about the power of forgiveness. None of us has any moral credit to teach anybody. We don't. Because people betray us and we don't let go. They hurt us, we're angry. But we are sharing the message of those who know how to forgive. None of us here have the power to say, forgive this way, because we're all learning. And Emmanuel begins with a message telling us that the enemy is actually inside of us, in our very feelings that are dormant. And it's just like a time when Jesus was on earth and a scribe approached him. Who taught us with great credit about forgiveness but Christ? We're going to share here with you that yesterday, as we were releasing the Spiritist magazine, the latest issue, its 58th issue, and I'll show to you because it's free of charge. You have an app. You can go there and find this beautiful literature. This is the latest issue. And in this issue, as you click here, you will go to a new page, and we're going to share with you the page where we're going to find the very story you can read later, though we're going to summarize it now. It's very important to illuminate our minds with reading literature that opens our horizons and free us from our prison. Sometimes we're imprisoned because we think the same old day and night, night and day, day and night, year after year. We need to free ourselves from that. How? That's why we have these illuminated books. That's why we are talking about time to heal with Chico Xavier. Chico Xavier really walked the footsteps of Jesus. And in this very issue, as we flip the pages, you can read in your tablet, in your phone, anywhere free of charge, or you can order and receive in your home. Just go to the website, spiritismagazine.org, and you're going to find amazing articles, plus this one. And I'm flipping the pages purposefully because there's a lot of good in here. This is the article that talks about the skeptical scribe. There was a scribe. Remember, at Jesus' time, those who knew how to write were few. They were ahead intellectually. And he came to Jesus, as the message says here to us. This is how the story begins. Jesus rested in the house of Iberin, the tanner, in the village of Dalmanutha, when Joab, a scribe in Caesarea, sought him in the company of Zebedee, the father of James and John, who had great appreciation for him. They left the boat while walking the city friend, who had never contemplated the sweet Nazareth, spoke the sorrows he had suffered. He felt sick in supreme revolt. He goes on and on talking about this message that will tell us. You can read later. But the message says that Zebedee, the father of John the Evangelist, came and brought this friend who was feeling anguished inside. He was like, people are cruel and hurt me all the time. How can I be happy when people are poking me day and night, when they are being cruel, when they are being inconsiderate? So, when he, the scribe, was entering the house, he saw a kind of a crazy man, because Jesus was always surrounded by all sorts of people entering the house. Later, when he entered the house, he himself, Jesus, he looked at the scribe and said, how can I help you, basically? And he said, I want you to tell me. So he was asking several questions. What do I do when people hurt me? And Jesus says, forgive. Imagine, you're doing fraternal counseling and you're telling your story. And Jesus says, forgive. No, but you don't understand what I'm talking about. That person robbed me. Well, forgive them. Well, that person badmouthed me. Well, forgive them. And for every question, Jesus was replying, forgive and forget and do the best you can and do the good. At the end of a dialogue that was quite extensive, the scribe shook his head, stood up, left, and asked someone, where is the Messiah? Because I think the man that I was talking to was the madman that got into the house. Why is it so hard for us to get the need for forgiveness? Right, Lucy? Right, Jesus, yes. Don't forget to forgive, Lucy's saying. I know it already. Yes. So, friends, forgiveness is a remedy. Today, we're going to drink this remedy together. Karen and Daisy will lead us into lessons that the good spirits brought to us. They teach us how to walk this path and why it is indispensable to do so. If we don't, there'll be consequences. Probably consequences that we already feel in our lives. Paying hospital bills without any need to be in hospitals. paying medical bills that we don't need to. If there were forgiveness in our homes, we wouldn't need to go so much to doctors. We wouldn't need so much to go through sleepless nights and so much else that will happen as life goes on. So let us open ourselves to sip the cup of forgiveness today. You can come, Carol.
So friends, thanks to the good spirits, we find that there is a lot of power in forgiveness, which is exactly the opposite of what most people think. In our current mindset and society, people tend to associate forgiveness with lack of courage and weakness. We often hear friends, acquaintances say, "Oh, you can't let this go. You should show how strong you are. You have to take offense and defend yourself." How often do we hear this? Oh no, don't let it go. We must defend ourselves. We have to say something. It's an act of courage to have the last word. How often do we hear that? This is considered standard almost in our society. But then comes Spiritism, showing life to us from a much, much higher perspective. We would say eternal perspective. And as we take this eternal perspective, we learn that we are not here to impose ourselves upon others. We are not here to change others, but rather we are here to change ourselves and to reach milestones of the soul that are very, very different from the material milestones that are glorified today. The spiritual milestones that we are here to achieve involves forgiveness. This is why in the Andre Luiz collection we see many examples of how to walk this pathway. As Vanessa said, none of us know how, but we are thankful to the spirits that they can show us the way. So let us walk this pathway first and foremost with the Master. He is our number one compass, north, and model. And in Matthew, Master Jesus tells us, Peter came to Jesus, Matthew tells us that Peter came to Jesus and asked, "Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brothers or sisters who sinned against me? Up to 7 times?" We love Peter because he's just like us. This is how we feel. How about if we forgive just one little time? Isn't that good enough, Master Jesus? We could picture ourselves asking this very question. So thank you, Peter, for reading our minds. And here comes the answer from the Master. The Master tells us, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times, meaning unlimitedly, without conditions. This is the pathway that the Master is teaching us to walk. And this is the pathway that was presented in the message that Vanessa brought to us in the Spiritist magazine, where the Master continuously tells us, forgive, 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 forgive. The very word forgive entails giving. If we break the word apart into two parts, for the purpose, give, to offer to others. So this is the action, to offer love to others. But how do we get there? There is a particular dynamics that the spirit mentors bring to us through the codification and through the books of Andre Luiz. Today we are referring in particular to the book Between Heaven and Earth, which our dear Daisy will detail to us in a case study that we will study together. But before we delve into the case study our dear Daisy will bring, we will share the dynamics of forgiveness. What is the first step? The first step is to acknowledge that we feel discomfort towards some of our acquaintances, some of our friends, sometimes some of our family members, sometimes our partners, sometimes the people who are closest to us. Oh, but Carol, come on, we don't have any enemies. Yeah, we may say that we don't have any quote-unquote enemies, but if we spend too much time with that person in our workspace, we say, oh, no, I can't take any more time with that person, not even a minute. I need a break. Or if we go to the Spiritist Center, we may say secretly in our minds, oh, I don't like that person's voice. I don't like the color of the wall. If only the center were bigger. And we are constantly creating mountains that separate us from others. With our partners at home, we may say, if only they could pay more attention to us. If only they could give us what we need. And in that way, we may not be speaking how we feel, but mentally, we are creating battles. And it is this kind of discomfort that shows that inside of us, we have the enemy of intolerance, which John read to us about. This is the sign that shows us that the enemies are inside. So why do we feel this discomfort? Because we haven't learned to love yet. How come we haven't learned to love? Because we are seeking to privilege ourselves first. When we enter in a relationship with someone else, we are not looking to give of ourselves very often. More often than not, we are looking to receive. What is in it for me? It is this me, my, and I mindset that causes this discomfort. And where do we go from there? Because we feel this discomfort, because we are centered in ourselves, we enter inner conflicts. We say, oh, but I'm supposed to get along with this person. We should. They are our family member. We are blood related. We better get along with the boss here because we have a million reasons to do so. We should. How many times do we tell ourselves, we should do this, we should do this. But inside of us, we have thoughts and feelings that we may not share with anyone that foment this inner war. And this is the inner conflict. Part of us already may understand that we are here to love, that all of us reincarnated to learn to love. But we have our tendencies where we still want to privilege our own take on things. This is where the conflict comes in. Is there a way out? The spirit mentors, Andre Luiz specifically, tell us, yes, we have to sublimate our feelings. What does it mean to sublimate? To sublimate involves to look at the person with whom we are in a relationship from the perspective of an eternal spirit. So instead of saying, oh, this boss of ours should know better, they are so cruel, how come they do this to us? How can they treat us this way? If we look at the relationship through the victimization lens, we are still in the selfishness mode. But if we look at it from the spiritual, eternal spirit perspective, we say, well, if we are in this challenging relationship, it's because God wants us to learn an eternal milestone of the spirit through the help of this person. What is this person helping us to acquire? Is it more patience, more understanding? Perhaps if we were in the boss's position, we wouldn't be able to do half of what they do. So God is inviting us to be more understanding, to be more tolerant, and we are clicking the milestones of the soul there in the curriculum of life. So if you look at the person from above, from on high, we are better able to understand God's purpose. The secret, tell us the spirit mentors, is to seek in our relationships the God-given purpose to it. Not this temporary, conditioned purpose that is associated with this personality, this physical body, this current conditions, no. But the eternal purpose that is behind it. Sometimes we have someone at home that we feel that discomfort with. So then if we take the God-driven perspective, we say, well, God brought us together because at least one of us needs to make the effort to walk the extra mile. Are we going to always wait for the other person to do this? No. Why can't we do it ourselves? It's much easier to say, no, you do it. But we are being invited to do it ourselves. How come, Carol? Because we literally know better. Because we literally can read hundreds of books that can help us to know better. And often the person towards whom we hold grudges don't know what we do. So before God, we are much more responsible for our actions than they are. And what happens after we are able to look at one another from a God-given or driven perspective? Then we are able to forgive. How come? Because we stopped taking things personally. We cease to look at the apparent pain that someone else causes us to understand that this is God's invitation for us to grow. As we see situations as God's personal, loving, unique, tailor-made invitation for us to grow, then we are able to embrace it. Where does the resistance come from? From the victimization, from the focus on the self, from the childlike perspective. Where does the liberation come from? From seeking to understand that God loves us and that the challenges are tailor-made for us to develop immortal acquisitions or skills that we do not yet have. So it is because God loves us that God challenges us, so that we can develop even more muscles to fly higher. And according to a Brazilian scholar from a podcast that we often here and share here because this material is not yet in English, so we would like to share. Forgiveness is the highest application of the gospel on the earth. This comes from Célia Regina Jorge. Why is forgiveness considered the highest application of the gospel on the earth? Because it's much easier to love those with whom we already have affinity than to learn to love those with whom we don't. So when we do make that decision to open and expand our hearts, we are coming closer to God and, of course, to Master Jesus. How do we know? Simply because God is love. So every time we choose to love, we are consciously connecting to God. So now that we have looked at the dynamics of forgiveness and how forgiveness is the highest expression of love on the earth, our dear Days is going to illustrate this process through the case of Odila and Zulmira, as narrated by the spirit doctor Andre Luiz in the book Between Heaven and Earth.
Friends, so we're gonna share just a little bit of this story that we invite all of you to go and read the book, because this is just a snapshot of the whole story. It's so intricate that, of course, we're not gonna be able to share everything, but we will bring this case, a true case of forgiveness that Andre Luiz describes to all of us. The case of Odila and Zulmira. So this is how the book starts. The book starts with a young girl, Evelina. She is a preteen, probably in her 12, 13 years old. She has a loving, loving heart, but the family situation at home is not so great. So she is actually praying very fervently. She's praying actually for her mother, as we can see here, the portrait on the wall, Odila. Her mother discarnated not too long ago, and her father, as you can see here, in reading the newspaper, her father found someone else, remarried, and, they were together in the family life. Amaro, from his previous marriage with Odila, he had Evelina, and Evelina had a younger brother called Julio. But Julio discarnated very young. So they are there. Evelina is asking for her mother help and intercession. And in the spiritual realm, Andre Luiz is there with Mentor Clarencio. They are asked to come and help this family. But as they get to the home and they go study the case and visit, this is the scene that they come to. Very, very interesting. The woman laying down is Zulmira, so the second wife of Amaro. She is going through a process of deep, deep depression. She is laying down. She doesn't have energy to do anything. When she's awake, she is tormented. She doesn't feel well. And then when she finally is able, not all the time, but to put her body is resting, she cannot rest mentally. She has nightmares. She has horrible dreams. Why? Why is the reason why? She's in a process of what we call in Spiritism obsession. The spirit that is obsessing
Zulmira is Odila, actually the first wife. And Andre Luiz was very intricate by this whole story. What is happening here? What is the dynamics of this story? And we get to know that Odila, when she discarnated, although Andre Luiz and the mentor described, she had great qualities. She was a great mother, but she saw her family has everything she had. She saw that her husband was her possession only. He couldn't have anyone else. So when she found herself in the spiritual realm, and she learned that her husband had found someone else, had remarried, the feelings of jealousy overtook her. She could not have it. It was her husband overall. That's what she said. Those are my children, Evelina and Julio. Who is this woman now in my house, trying not only to take over my husband's love, but overtaking my role as the woman of the house and as a mother. So the feelings of jealousy overtook Otila. But then Andre Luiz explains, as we're talking about the dynamics here that happened in the spiritual realm. Although Odila had these sentiments for Zulmira, in order for an obsession process to happen, there needs to be a plug. It's not enough for a spirit to come and try to, influence us. We need, it's like plugging the TV on the wall. You need the correct plug for it to fit in order for that connection to happen. And what was the plug for Zulmira? You might be asking. Well, remember the young boy, Julio? Well, when she moved into the home, she started to see the dynamics of the household. And she saw that the father, Amaro, was very loving towards the boy. The boy was everything to him. And he would spend a lot of time taking care of the boy. He was the youngest. So Zulmira herself felt what? Jealousy, right? Jealous because how come her husband was spending more time with the boy than with her? How come was all the attention towards the boy and not her? As Carol was describing to us, selfishness, right? But that was not enough. Deep inside, she started to enter in that discomfort, as we just heard. The discomfort that deep inside, she just thought for a moment, what if something happened with Julio? An accident might happen. He might not be here anymore. If he wasn't here, I would have the whole attention of my husband to myself. So she started having these thoughts. They live in the city of Rio de Janeiro. They frequently went to the beach. So she thought to herself, he's a young boy with lots of energy. Maybe one day he would be playing by the water. No one sees. That can happen. Thoughts, friends. Let us pause. Right. Let us thought and think about it. She thought she was just thinking. But then one day comes. The family goes, as they usually went, to the beach. For a beautiful day by the water. The father was playing with the daughter. And for a moment, Zulmira found herself alone with Julio. As a young boy, he was there, excited to be by the water, looking at the seashells. And then she thought to herself, Maybe this is it. What if I just look away for a few minutes? But as we know, friends, it just takes 1 second, right? 1 second for our lives to change completely. And that is exactly what happened with Zamira. In a moment that she gave in to her bad tendencies in her heart, that you can read why in this story. There's a whole story behind it that we're not going to get into from previous lives that Andre Luiz explained. So it does her sentiments towards Julio and Amaro, the father, doesn't come from this life, but you're going to read in this story. That's why this is a teaser for you. But the focus here today is around forgiveness. So for a split second, she looks away. And then when she brings her eyes back to the sea, the wave was too big for the little Julio. And friends, in the same split second that she looked away, when she looked back, in the same split second, she already felt remorse. She felt guilty. That was the plug, friends. That was the key that was missing for the obsession to happen. Because as she felt guilty, she entered into the sentiment. She connected with Odila in this obsessive process. Odila couldn't accept how come this woman come to my house now with my husband, and now she's a murderer. She murdered my son. That's what Odila thought. So this is the dynamic, friends. This is the dynamic, and Andre Luiz is bringing this to us, not as a novel for us to read, but this is day-to-day life. This happens more frequently than we think. So, as the mental Clarence Andre Luiz studied the case, he says, let's intervene, let's help. Andre Luiz is eager to help, but he is calm. He says, let's take it easy. Many things happen, but there is a key. They say, Mentor Clarencio says, look, I can speak with Odila. I have the instruction. I have the knowledge. But she needs a maternal heart. She needs to hear this from someone who not only knows it all, how we can go through and reconcile, but she needs to hear from someone who has a pure and true sentiment. And that's when Sister Clara comes in. Sister Clara, a spirit, yes, right? We see Sister Clara, she brings so much joy, right? Yes, she does, because she is an elevated spirit. She is a mother herself, looking into reconcile and help those that she loves. And she comes to speak with Odila. And she has so true sentiments that just by appearing in prayer, by appearing to Odila, Odila falls on her knees. And she says, oh, angel of God, you have come to help me. Please help me get rid of this woman who come and it's infiltrating my home. And Sister Clara says, Odila, let us stop, let us think. You say you love your husband, but what love is this that is all for yourself? Right? This love that is so selfish that you think it is your home, your husband, your children. What about they? She asked them, have you stopped to think? Your husband was left alone with 2 young children to raise. Don't you think he needs a help to raise the children? How about Zumira? How would you feel if you were in her shoes? Entering a new home with embracing two children that are not technically your own. But how would you feel if you were welcomed to this home with already sentiments of jealousy, barriers? How would she feel? But then Odila told Sister Clara, but she's a murderer. She murdered my son. She says, Odila, what guarantees you? Remember, God is the Father of all of us. We are just temporarily in the roles of mothers and fathers. So if God allowed your son to be taken from this life at a young age, who are you to now blame it on Zumira? She says. And then Sister Clara says, Odila, do you want to help? Do you want to see the happiness of your daughter who's still incarnated, Evelina? How come your son Julio, he's in the spirit realm, don't you want to help him? And that was it, friends. That inner conflict that we saw, that's what starts to shift within Odila. When she starts to look at her family, not with the eyes of the physical plane, not with what our eyes can see, but the eyes of the spirit, thinking, it's not my husband or my children. We're all children of God. I, being in this dynamic, I'm only deteriorating the family dynamics. What if I join in instead of creating this discomfort? What if I help? Wouldn't my husband, the one I love, be happier? Wouldn't my daughter be happier? How about this woman who I am obsessing? She's a sister of mine. She can be a great tool to help this family. And through the treatment and the conversations with Sister Clara shares with her one sentence that we want to share with all of us. She says, Odila, be strong. Strong, as Carol said at the beginning. People think forgiveness is for the weak. I'm not going to give in. I'm not going to forgive. They're going to think I'm beneath them. I'm going to be the stronger one. I'm going to have the higher words. Isn't that what we hear in our society? But she's saying, no, forgiveness, when we forgive, we're being strong. Because all the good that you do to Zumira will rebound in your favor. Whoa, friends, that's it. The good that we do towards others will come back to us as the evil that we do. So she says, don't lose heart. Help yourself. How can you help yourself? By helping her. By willing to seek the good, you're going to accomplish miracles. Friends, miracles is the word. Because as soon as Odila got in the inner conflict and she started to sublimate her feelings towards Zumira, seeing not with the physical eyes, but with the immortal eyes, a miracle happens. Zumira started to feel better. She had an opportunity with the guidance of the mentors in the spiritual realm to have a conversation with both Evelina and Amaro. And she said, my beautiful daughter, you are here to help. You reincarnated to help this family. By accepting Zumira as your mother, by helping her, you're going to help your father. So I will be guiding you. And she told her husband. Her husband was so distraught because he had lost the son that he loved so much. And deep inside, he also blamed Zumira. He could not even look her in the eyes. And Odila said, Amaro, let us forgive. Let us look at Zumira as a sister of us. Yes, right, Lucy. Let us then transform this love and the love of this family so that we can help one another and we can help Zumira. So much so, friends. And we will pass forward in the story a little bit. She was able to help the family so much, working and inspiring Amaro and Evelina, and in the spiritual realm, that Julio had the opportunity to come back. Again, read the book because you understand the story and the reasons why he had to have a premature death. But he comes back, now not as the son of Dotila, but as the son of Zumira. She now embraced the boy that she first rejected as her own son, so she could now sublimate her love and love Julio as a son of her own. With the help of Sister Clara and Odila, he was able to come back to this circle of this family. Friends, forgiveness, as we started at the beginning by sharing, as we're all learning, it's not an easy road. But this case illustrates to us that when we hold grudges, when we look at a situation that happens in our lives and we take a snapshot and we keep coming back at that photo of that snapshot, that event, that accusation, we are there. We're imprisoning ourselves. When we learn to understand, to look with a different lens, we are actually freeing ourselves. Odila was prisoning not only Zumira, she was prisoning herself in this process. So when we learn and we go through this road of forgiveness, we are freeing ourselves and we're freeing others. Because the enemy, as we read at the beginning, is not the enemy who is out there. Those who persecute us, those who hurt us, they are within us. Why? Think about it. Jesus came, our guide and model came. He went through persecutions, accusations. He was mistreated. He was hurt. Did he have the plug inside himself? He didn't, because he suffered all of that. He was still loving. He was still caring. He was understanding. So the problem is not on the enemies. It's within us. Because if we have the plug, they're gonna plug. And once we plug, then it becomes even harder to get into that road of forgiveness. So once we take care of ourselves, people can do what they do. They have free will. They're gonna have their time. We will all get there. And that's the beauty of these cases by Andre Luiz. Because we see we're not bound to suffer. We're not bound to be in this dynamic of hatred, of jealousy. On the contrary, we will all be there in this eternal family. So, once we know that we cannot change others, but we can change ourselves, we take charge of our lives. And that's what Odila learned at the end of the story. In a beautiful dialogue with the mentors and Sister Clara, she says, I learned to love. I didn't know how to love before. I thought I knew. Now I know that to love is to give without waiting or expecting anything in return. To give of yourself to others and to be happy by other happiness instead of worrying about your own. That is the sublime love. And that's when we get to that sublimation. That's when she was able to truly heal herself. So today, friends, we're invited to look at people and situations in our lives with a different lens, with a different perspective, like Odila, thinking that what people do, it's on their own, but we have the power to free ourselves, to love without expecting anything in return, to truly give ourselves and renounce. And we will end with Jesus because he's our guide and model, and we started with Jesus and we'll end with Jesus. When he says, I say to you, love your enemies. Love your enemies, friends. He didn't say like, he says love. Love because our enemies are our brothers and sisters. Our enemies don't know what we know. So let us love them. Let us bless those who cursed you. They don't know what they're doing. They truly don't know, because when they realize, yes, it would hurt them. And do good toward those who hate you. Because we know there are no victims, friends. We are no victims. And that's why we need to read these books to see. We brought you just a snapshot of the story. There's much more. The reasons. Why is the dynamic of the family? Who were they in one previous life? Who was Zumira? So there are no victims. So let's do good towards those who hate us, because most time than not, we were the ones in the past who hurt them. And pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. And that's what Jesus taught us by the cross. He said, Father, forgive, because they don't know what they're doing. So that is the invitation, friends. Let us think about Jesus, and only with Jesus we're going to be able to walk through this pathway of forgiveness. And we will now continue with our session of today. Okay, friends. So let us just absorb the message, the invitation. And always think, as Moses brought to us way before Jesus, we can't expect to be happy when people die. When that colleague is no longer there, that family member no longer is there. Because in a way, you shall not kill. So many people think, I'll be happy the day that person is not there, so I can do what I need to do. Just like Zulmira. Some people await for marriages to be destroyed for them to find their happiness. And that, in a way, is against the fundamental law. You shall not kill. Why do we need to wait for somebody
to disappear for us to be happy. When that colleague retires, then I'll have my promotion. This is sick. It's morbid. Just like Zumira, morbid. I want that couple to be apart so I can have the person to me. That's morbid. I want that child to disappear so I can have the full attention. I want that friend. These are scenarios that happen almost every day. Emmanuel, in the book Harvest of Light, he talks about you shall not kill in a different way. Saying that sometimes we have these morbid feelings, waiting for people to be separated so we find happiness. For them to die so we find what we need. Andre Luiz shows in that book what he repeats in several other books, showing common day-to-day life. In other books, it's about a husband who dreams of his wife disappearing so he could be with somebody else. You shall not kill. And we want happiness at the expense of so much sadness and sorrow. Zumira saw it. You don't find happiness this way. Of course, we're focusing on Odila, but we most often are like Zumira, who are entering people's homes, people's lives, and seeing ourselves there, displacing other people. Sometimes at work, sometimes even in the Spirit Center. Sometimes in a family, of the extended family. So today we have two takes, Zumira and Odila. If Odila has to sublimate and forgive, Zumira as well needs to be less selfish and stop this mental crime when we're dreaming of the separation of others, of the disappearance of people in our lives. Sometimes it's a colleague at work. If they're no longer there, we'll take their position. That's morbid. That's sick. Let us meditate on this. Because on earth, we're evolving. We're evolving. We can't grow at the expense of people's loss. Nobody wins. Zumira saw it. She didn't win by participating in that tragedy mentally. It happens even at our financial world. There are rules, and Martha Stewart felt it in her skin. Everybody knows Martha Stewart. Successful as she was, she learned a lesson in prison. You don't gain anything at somebody else's expense and loss. So today, it's about self-forgiveness. So we stop being like Zumira. And forgiveness to others. So we can be more like Odila. Or stop being like the old Odila and be the new Odila. Forgive. Forgive always. But forgive ourselves when we're still committing these mental crimes. Thinking of eliminating people so we can find happiness. We need to rid ourselves of morbidity. When you go to social media, don't scroll people's lives unless you're there to help them. If it is to find out what they are experiencing, it's just a waste of time. It's morbid. use social media to help, to elevate. Not to see, oh, look how happy they are. Look where I am. This is self-inflicted pain. Deep inside, the people who post too much about happiness, they are not happy. They are not. I know cases after cases after cases of people talking about how difficult their relationship is. The next day they are posting happy outing with that person. Lie, lie, lie. Lie, lie, lie. Plus, if you're spiritist, it's not charitable. Because then you're showing to the world a lie, and at the same time, inflicting pain on people who will look at it and say, oh, look at me. That person is getting that, look at me. So don't. Let's be charitable in our posts. Never forget this girl, coming very young, married, no children yet. She used to travel, and came to us in Baltimore, the Spiritist out of Baltimore. She said, I know my life is not going well because I post too much about my things. And every time I travel, I post everywhere I go. I have a car accident or a problem, etc. So you already know the remedy, right? Stop pushing people's buttons. Because you're creating jealousy, and that, look at the phrase, those who are feeling spite towards us. They want what we have. But if you say, look what I have, don't then say, oh my gosh, look what people are doing to me, because we are attracting it. So let us be more coherent and forgive ourselves for our incoherences and morbidities, and also forgive others. It's time for coherence. We're now going to play the virtual passes because we have friends virtually with us. Meanwhile, we here will be also applying the passes. Oh yeah, right. Thank you. I always forget. This is on YouTube. You just play virtual passes. There's male and female voice. There's also in Spanish. And it's a great way to feel like the healing and this encounter with Jesus. Right now, for those who are not familiar, we will ask you to come to the front row one by one. And then our practitioners will be applying the passes, which is the energy healing. Nobody touches the body. Just feel the receiving of the energy medicine, always thinking of Jesus.
Welcome to the Virtual Passes Room. Emmanuel, the spirit mentor of Chico Xavier, once stated that thought is life. Thus, we can create the healing mental state right here and now. In preparation for the virtual passes, we would kindly recommend the following. Be certain that you have a real need to receive passes. Do not use the room simply out of curiosity. Casual visits to the room will negate its future benefits when needed. When using the room, have gratitude and show respect as you would when visiting a physical spiritist center. During the passes, silently evoke God's protection as well as Jesus. Also pray to your guardian angel. Concentrate on positive thoughts, thereby avoiding negative ones. Breathe deeply, slowly, calmly, and confidently. Always be ready to pray. Let us begin this passes session by praying as our guide and model, Jesus Christ, has taught us with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Now, let us feel that small points of suffering, bitterness, sadness, anger, deception, disappear from your mind to not return. Like aged leaves that are shed from trees, let go of those feelings that no longer serve you. And gently, but most assuredly, discard them. Let the wind of life carry them so far away that they are unable to return and recreate their negative link. Little by little, your emotional tree sheds its negative feelings, becoming clean and ready for its renovation. Without the weight of those dead leaves, you feel lighter and are able to feel the gentle water of life now abundantly falling onto your physical body, spiritual body, and soul. This water cleans, disinfects, purifies, deconstructs, and tones all the cells of your body. Nothing can escape its renewing action. At the same time it is cleaning and moisturizing your body, this crystalline liquid satiates your spirit, eliminating affliction, anxiety, and unrest. Now within your heart resides a sense of calmness, cleanness, and well-being. Then the light of God emerges to warm and snuggle you, while caring rays penetrate your whole body and tenderly embrace you like a maternal hug, which brings comfort and safety to your heart. At this moment, great love warms your heart and removes the coldness resulting from any affliction. Now, your mind contains only feelings of joy and confidence. You are at peace and enveloped by a protective warmth. The heart of life offers you perfumed flowers. Then, with a grateful and happy soul, you gather their colorful petals that penetrate your whole being, restoring feelings and emotions of happiness, hope, faith, courage, and determination, helping you to regain the willingness to live. In addition to the perfume and color, nature also shares with you the best it has to offer, an infinite capacity for restoring its sublime beauty, even when struck by evil that appears to enact its end. Divine hands full of light gently overflow and spill over you like a golden waterfall of unspeakable and unknown essence. Little by little, your soul is impregnated with sweet happiness, allowing an inner renewal of the most noble and elevated purposes, that of progress and accomplishment. Showered by this sublime power, you deeply surrender to the donor of light, absorbing energy that now gives your life a new and blessed impulse. You called me, and here I am. What do you want from me today? What do you need? Ask, my son. Ask, my daughter. I am here to help. Now, ask your special request to Jesus, enumerating the problems and difficulties that afflict you. I listen to your request with love and attention. Now I count on your faith and trust in me to solve your problems. Go in peace. I am watching over you, and I will not lose sight of you. Believe in God and also believe in me. I will be with you every day until the end. Be happy. Many blessings.
Let us all now continue to feel in the vibrations and the good energies that the doctors and nurses has provided to us throughout this treatment. And with our hearts full of gratitude for the blessings that we receive today, for this beautiful opportunity to be together, we pray, dear Mother, Father God, Master Jesus, loving mentors, thank you so much for guiding us and for bringing us together today.
in order that together we nourish our souls. If we may ask, we would like to ask for strength and courage so that we can go through this reincarnation and go through this week with the blessings and with the energies that we receive today. Guide us so that we can be the transformation in this planet. Give us the strength to go throughout our daily routine, being a good Christians, put in practice the gospel that we receive daily in our lives. Thank you, loving mentors, for being guiding us every step of the way. And we feel the joy in the presence of your love and your guidance. And for that, we are very thankful. And we feel that we are not alone. And as we go back to our homes, may we be the light in their home and wherever we may be. So with your permission, loving mentors, with permission of Master Jesus, our Creator, we would like to close these moments of prayer and nourishment for our souls. And so be it. So friends of the internet, we'll see you again tomorrow at 6 p.m. with the treatments. And we are always online, Nourishing Our Souls at Cadet Radio. And we'll be here again next Friday in person at 7 p.m. Please come and join us. Bye friends for now.